Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh,
We're back.
oh my god! I try not to make a big noise when we did the clap anymore because it's really, really noisy.
It just goes,
Like,
it just starts to like crackle and shit.
oh, very peaky, very crackly.
Here we are. Let's
Anyway.
snap, crackle, and pop this.
Look at this.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the new season of the Split Shift podcast. Oh, that sounds good. Where we cut
That's
through
pretty good.
where we cut through the bullshit and the noise of the fitness industry. My name is Dan.
My name is Jamie, and we're still playing this same game of chess. We're a few moves in. I reckon this could be the season where we finish this, to be honest.
Maybe. I don't know. We've got a few episodes to get through for this one, but man,
We need to be a bit more active with this. We need to be a bit more active with this game. But anyway, we're going to kick this season off with a bit of a chat between Danny Blaz and I on something that's quite important in our lives, in the lives of our clients for the past however many years.
especially, yeah.
It's called tracking food. We're going to have a little chat about whether or not you should track your fucking food.
Is it toxic? Is tracking culture toxic?
Is it?
That's something we probably heard so many times, especially from new clients who've come and they join us and say, we kind of get the feelers out of we talk about food and we talk about their relationship with food, stuff like that, and we say, how about tracking? And she's like, oh, but I've heard tracking can be toxic
Oh, obsessive.
or obsessive.
Yes.
Now we're gonna break that down in this episode, and I'm pretty curious to. I think we've got some specific opinions on why, maybe for, maybe even against as well.
Everybody's different, and we're going to chat about, if you stay tuned, watch the whole fucking episode. Also, I need to apparently stop swearing so much, which I'm going to try to do.
I don't think it's gonna.
I don't think it's going to happen either, but you know what? Tony Robbins swears, so, and he's doing pretty fucking well.
And
Let's be real.
Split shift. We're just a little nuts, right?
Go get fucked. So anyway, is tracking toxic? Danny Blaze, what do you think? If I was to be like, you know what? I was planning on tracking my food, but I've heard it's toxic and I heard it's not good for my relationship with food.
Heard that one, huh?
What do you reckon?
It can be, but also can't be as well. But I can
Fucking wrap that shit up. There you go.
There you go. I'll see you next week. This is something that actually I speak to early in a lot of journeys and kind of unraveled both perspectives on tracking. I can personally understand as from a coach that where both sides are coming from, but completely different perspectives on both of them. There is the obsession. There is I'm bound on my phone and I'm looking at what I got to do, and then I can't eat that. I got to stay on in my calories and all that type of stuff. They're bound to this process of just I need to abide by this objective approach to food, and that causes obsession. That causes more stress. That actually makes the process and the journey way worse, and that's what makes people mostly resent tracking. Makes you resent their journey.
Absolutely.
That's one side. The side that I usually look to change people's viewpoints on is the perspective of opportunity. What does tracking actually do for you? And what doors does it actually open up? So when we're looking at data, what we can measure, how much have we said this in fucking so many episodes by now, what you can measure, what you can improve. So tracking is just a tool. It's not an essential tool. It's not the game-breaking tool, but it fucking works. And it works very, very, very well. Now, when we're looking at it from the point of tracking, in the form of opportunity, we look to see especially if we're looking at it from the lens of you can enjoy the foods that you want. That's what we say. Because it's true. It's about an energy balance system. It's about learning how to build good relationships and moderation with with the food that you have to make it sustainable. Tracking is a vehicle for that. Tracking allows you to be able to do that when you look at it more subjectively of can I enjoy the foods that I want, but also cater towards my goal needs. Most of the people that don't track or has never tracked, but this bad relationship with tracked, kind of went about it with the wrong way of they didn't utilize the tool that well. I see it more, so 100% more from what has benefited my life, how it's benefited many of my clients. I have clients who have lost tens and tens and tens of kilos. One client recently passed over the 50 kilo mark, which is absolutely incredible. They use tracking, and that's okay. I'm curious to know your opinion on it as well. I'm a big for with it, where there is lines that can be drawn in the sand, which I think I will come back to a little bit later. But first and foremost, I'm a big believer on it. I don't think people should use it forever. I think people should fulfill its use for it, and then live their best life.
Use it as a tool. I really thought you were going to say tens and tens of thousands of kilos.
Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of kilos.
She was 50,000 kilos heavy.
She's withered to nothing.
All from tracking.
Unfucking believable.
No. And on what you were saying about, it's a tool, blah, blah, blah. I think that a lot of people would have come into tracking with that fucked up relationship with food already.
Yeah.
They may have tried the diets. They may have tried restrictive dieting where they're cutting out carbs, they're cutting out this, that, and the other to be able to get that result. And they're going into tracking with that same mindset. You need to be able to shift that. The thing that I've noticed with a lot of my clients and people I've worked with over the years is they feel like this area is toxic because it starts highlighting patterns that they're trying to avoid thinking about. They have these things wrong with their relationship with food. They have these issues with the patterns of their eating. The thing that tracking does is it brings awareness to that.
Correct.
It's black and fucking white. You ate fucking Tim Tams, you can track it, you can see exactly how many calories you have. You've binged or, whatever maybe you binge ate, maybe you just had a few. That's either is fine. There's nothing wrong with any of them. But it brings awareness of that. So you are literally reading on your phone, this is how much energy I just consumed. Holy fuck, but I'm a lazy cunt. I don't actually move my body. Sorry about the C word. But yeah, so it's bringing that awareness to maybe the holes in your bucket when we're looking at your habits around eating, that sort of stuff. Think of it like a bank account. So you're looking at tracking like this toxic thing, and that would be the same as treating viewing or pulling up your app, your banking app. That's toxic because you have all this issue with overspending. You don't want to see your overspending, so you're going to say, I'm not going to open that app because that's toxic. That's toxic to actually look at what the numbers say. It's literally the same fucking thing, So just checking out the data and assessing the data and seeing what you're actually doing day to day with your food, there is nothing toxic about that for most people. If you do have issues, if you have had genuine issues in the past, which I'm sure we're going to talk about very shortly, if you've had genuine issues in the past and you have concerns around that, and you're not just avoiding the tracking because you don't want to know what's actually going on, you need to go talk to somebody about that. Go see a psychologist. Go see somebody that can actually deal with eating disorders, that sort of stuff. That's a different can of fish. That's a different can of some sort of animal altogether. All right? We can open that up in a second. But yes, when you're looking at tracking, like you were saying, when you're looking at tracking, don't think about nailing everything. Don't think about it as though you're having a diet. Don't think about it like you're cutting out food groups. Don't think about it like you're trying to starve yourself. Use the tracking for education. You're trying to learn about the foods that you're wanting to eat or you do eat on a daily basis, and be curious about it. Use it for curiosity, to spark your curiosity. Oh, I didn't actually know what was in a fucking lasagna. I'm going to track a lasagna and find out what's actually in it. Holy shit, that's a fuckload of calories. I better, reel that in a little bit when I'm eating lasagna every fucking night. Maybe that's why I'm not losing weight, Using it as a tool, exactly like you were saying, rather than necessarily basing your whole life around it. Using it as the be-all, end-all of your weight loss journey or fat loss journey or your lifestyle journey. It is literally a supplement.
Yeah.
It's an indicator. It's there to educate you. But if you do have issues, that's a whole fucking different conversation.
No, I agree. I'm glad you brought up that side of it too, because that is the side when you have to draw the line somewhere. And if there's history behind that where you have had those concerns in the past, we definitely will highly advise against tracking, because that can spark again something that can obviously doesn't fix anything. It's not there to fix it. It's not there to fix I wouldn't say it's there to fix directly your eating. It's just more so to validate the lifestyle that you want, because you're giving it some direction. But if there's something beyond that, that's obviously like a bit more pressing concern. You're absolutely right. I could not agree with more. We got to talk to someone about it. There is other ways we can track food as well. And by far, looking at, for example, the most common one is MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal just works. Works super, super well. It, like you mentioned before, it's you're validating what you're want to eat in the day to day, and it also sparks that opportunity of like, and it builds your knowledge as well in the food that you're eating, that you're having good relationships with, the foods that you enjoy with that wine on that Friday night. But it also can also be a way to narrow down on how to compromise for the lifestyle that you're living as well. So if, for example, like I've got a mate's birthday this weekend, I want to have a few drinks. I want to get pretty pissed for that. Sweet. I'm going to use tracking. That's going to be able to set me up to say, what do I need to do to be able to make sure I can mitigate as much damage for that night? Because the key thing is something that tracking, when it does extremely well, and it reduces a lot of guilt. Reduces a lot of that guilt feeling of just like, I fucked up. You know, if we use it correctly, at least, is that I fucked up. I went out drinking with my mates and I had that snack pack after the end of the night and I ate shit the next day and I just completely fucking ruined it and I feel done. Whatever it may be. What tracking does is that, like, at least what we aim to talk about is how to be able to reduce that damage, like create as much damage control as much as we can. So for those events and you got some other things lined up, you know, how do we plan for it better? How can we use this effective tool to make it work with those events? Not
narcotics. It's always narcotics.
Zero cows.
Zero cows. If you track MDMA in MyFitnessPal, zero. Yeah.
Zero.
Life hack, little split shift pod.
Split shift pod
back there. Yeah.
Put that in the rear.
Anyway, sorry, what were you saying?
But anyway, like, so there's so many ways you can be able to use. You can do tracking for, it's like in so many scenarios. Now, with tracking, doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, through, you know, like the app itself, like MyFitnessPal. You can use it in just by writing your food down. You know, just what are your general habits of your day today? That bringing that conscious eating back. So that's essentially what it's doing. I think when people when they are 100% you're right, you get super fearful of looking at the numbers, or it's just probably not their preference, or that they're avoiding it. You know, an entry level, like, first off, address that, but like an entry level could be like, just start writing what you're generally eating, because at least you're putting it in the face of just like, oh, this is actually just what's happening. You know, and that's okay. You know what I mean? You can have the fucking Tim Tams on the Friday night, wherever it may be. Just account for it, because it is happening. So I think what people don't realize is that tracking creates an insane amount of ownership. Like an insane amount of ownership of what the fuck is actually, what you're actually doing. Because it is black and white, you know? It's strictly objective in the way of just like, this is what's actually happening. So there's less of that guesswork where you're like, fuck, what am I doing wrong? You know, I'm doing the right thing and nothing's working until we have to validate it, you know? To the simple data.
Yeah. But writing it down, bringing awareness to the thing, exactly what you were just saying, like just being mindful of what you're doing initially. When somebody first starts with me, I don't give them any targets for calories, any targets for protein straight away. It's just write every single fucking thing that you've eaten and you're about to eat, write it down. 9 times out of 10, they start eating better without changing anything, just because they're having to think about it. You know, that's fucking huge in itself. But if you are going to be tracking your expenses, if you want to save money, you're going to track your expenses. You can do a budget, right? If you are wanting to, you know, I don't fucking know, another example, you know, whatever. If you want, let's say you want to drive to Melbourne, you're going to get your GPS up. You're going to track your location, right? Same deal. If you want to lose fat, you need to know, that you need to be in a calorie deficit. How will you know if you're in a calorie deficit unless you're tracking your food? We know that weight fluctuations happen every fucking day. There is no way to be consistent around that. So it's important that you know exactly how much is going in. If you want to, you know, if you want to see that result, you know, you can do that in whatever way you want, but tracking calories is definitely one of the most flexible ways. So you're not having to cut out things that you really, really enjoy. And exactly like you said, feeling that guilt when you do enjoy that ice cream or enjoy that chocolate or enjoy that finger bun or whatever.
I'm so glad I didn't drink just before you said that.
What's wrong with the finger bun, man?
Nothing. It was just like,
don't make it weird.
It was super wrong.
Don't make it weird. You don't actually need the zero calories in fingering your bun. But no, it's not. It's actually calorie free. But yes, it's zero guilt because you can account for that. Also, if you can be black and white about this whole area and take the emotion out of it, if you can take the emotion out of your whole fucking fat loss journey, no matter how hard that is, for a lot of people that will be ridiculously hard, it is so important. If you can do that, you will get amazing results, and it's not going to be a big head fuck. Because if you are no longer emotional about your food, if you're no longer emotional about your tracking, you're going to be able to do these things without having those ebbs and flows of your feelings. You're going to be able to be logical about it and understand that there are 7,700 calories in that kilo of fat. So if you do have that finger bun and you go over your calories by 500, you are no longer feeling shit about that because you're like, that doesn't even scratch the fucking surface of a kilo of fat. You know, I can literally just have 200 calories less for the next 3 days and that's sweet. Like, and that I probably wouldn't even notice that, you know? Whereas if you don't track and you don't have this education around what's in the foods that you like to eat, odds are you're going to eat over your calories. You're going to feel like shit. You're going to beat yourself up because you're like, I fucked up. This is so bad. I'm a piece of shit. Yeah. Then you go to the cupboard. Then the next day you're like, fuck it. I've ruined my whole week. I'm going to go get the B&E roll with the fucking extra layers of bacon and 3 extra eggs from fish nets around the corner. Blow out that day. Then I'm going to get KFC for lunch, you know, and then before you know it, a whole week, you have put on a kilo of fat, you know? So yes, having that education, taking the emotion out of the whole situation, you're just doing the logical thing. And you're actually you're going to be able to see the progress without feeling shit about yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like the way you look at it. I think like it's, the way I see with tracking is that I think when you align with, I think like looking at it objectively for the sake of fat loss is really good. When you look at calorie banking is really, really good. It's the point where you get to the point of like, okay, when am I going to exceed my usefulness for it? And that's going to be a stage for people who have successful, weight loss journeys and stuff like that. Cause I'm a big believer where no one should track forever. You should learn to, live without it. So when you're undergone, your fat loss journey, you want to, lose the weight or, gain weight, whatever it may be, like you can use this so many ways. There is going to be a point when to say, okay, at what point does it become too much? I'm curious to actually, if you can, to kind of delve into that part to say, when's the right time to cut it off? To leave tracking for its usefulness and then move forward from there.
I think use it as a tool. So for example, use it as an educational piece. So if you are trying to lose fat, if you are in a fat loss phase and that's what you're trying to do, use it as a tool until you're confident with what you're doing. So for example, if you have a good routine around what you're eating and and you can see where you're at with being in a calorie deficit, you may not need to track. For example, myself, I've been doing this for a very, very, very long time though. So I have that good education around that sort of thing. When I'm trying to cut fat, so if I've got a holiday coming up or if I'm, getting into summer or if I'm, whatever it is, I will track 1 or 2 days and then I'll rotate those days. As soon as I start to plateau with my body fat or my body weight, I will track another day, reduce my calories slightly, increase my output. And I'm using it as a measure of where I'm at. Because when you don't track for a while, it does become like Chinese whispers a lot. If somebody is in a maintenance phase, learning how to maintain that, figuring out where your calories are at, using the tool for that purpose, and then leaving it. And then seeing how you can maintain that. As soon as you start going up in that window, so if you got the upper window of body fat or body weight, you have that lower window of body fat and body weight. If you are trying to maintain, keep it in that middle ground and then track abnormalities. So let's say, for example, you're trying out a different meal or a different sort of recipe for meal prep. Track that and then eat the rest of your days you normally would, But you have the education around, this is what's in 2 eggs. This is what's in a slice of sourdough. I already know that stuff. I don't need to track it anymore because it's in my head, That's when the education around the tracking comes into play. The problem is a lot of people try to drop the tracking before they have the education behind it, before they have the knowledge behind it. Use it as a tool to teach yourself what is in the foods that you like. Once you know what is in the foods that you like, you no longer need to track unless you want to, unless it is going to make your life easier. It's when it starts making your life harder, when it starts to make that result that you're trying to get harder, and that seesaw is out of balance, then it's going over to the harder, but my results suffering as well. that's when you got to start thinking about what you're going to do around that tracking. How can we push that out of your life a little bit? If you are trying to put on weight, just eat as much as you fucking can. Don't even track. You know?
Just go to fishnets,
To be honest.
down the road, get the B&A.
Fishnets.
B&A.
Is Fishnets still open?
Yeah. Yeah, it still is. I've been
I've
there.
been around for a very long time.
From the Wollongong area. Fuck, you know about it.
Insane.
I like that. I like that you mentioned the Chinese whisper thing because it's true, and it's funny with the when you preemptively stop tracking. It's
Yes.
like I already know what I'm eating. Like it's like I can look at it and I see that's what it is. I'm like I know it's roughly around then. I've probably heard that thousands of times, and that's usually the things that starts to break down the routine of where like for those people and like in particular through like as many experiences is that if they preemptively cut it off, it takes a while to really understand how you naturally react to portion sizes, stuff like that. And if you look at certain foods as well, like things like, if you look at, for example, like granola or like oats.
Fucking granola.
20 grams to 50 grams looks almost fucking identical.
Oh, yes.
Looks fucking identical. And when I love the confidence that people get when they start to, they've been tracking, they've been doing the thing, but the monotony and the routine around it starts to kill them a little bit. And then they're just like, I don't need to track it because I know what the portion size look like. And this causes people to plateau. This causes people to actually start to gain distrust in the process of things like tracking or things like, like calorie deficit. It's like, it's not really working anymore because I'm eating the same thing. I'm like, well, I don't think you are.
So fucking accurate.
There is this like analogy that I use with, it's called the piece of paper analogy. It's like exactly like Chinese whispers. Think of it as like this is the piece of paper for on Spotify, if you listen, is that there's a visual piece of paper. This is the standard of, let's just say, Dan. This is me. This is my eating habits. This is my tracking. This is what I do in my day to day. I am getting my results like this through this, maintaining this whole piece of paper, this standard. But if I start to get a little overconfident, then I will say, you know what, I probably don't need to weigh my rice. I know it's roughly around that much. It's sweet. No worries. But I'm just ripping off a little piece of the corner there. But don't worry, it's only a little piece. I've only dropped the standard a little bit. It didn't really track as much. I've still got all this Spotify listeners, still got a lot of the piece of paper. Now, but with this level of confidence, or in this case, potentially complacency, we start to drop the standard. I won't even have to track my lunches. It's about the same anyway. Well, I wouldn't even need it, all that type of stuff. But now we're just peeling back what the actual, of our general standard, that was getting us the result in the first place. And then it happens bit by bit. We don't even realize, we don't even feel it. It can happen over weeks, can happen over months, can happen over years, especially when people achieve the result. And I love how you mentioned that that tracking is a good reference point to say more like a touch base. I'm like,
yes.
Am I just like, I'm just going to just double check it.
Yes.
See if it's all sweet. I love that. Because if we completely take it out and we don't use it as a tool anymore, standards change, things become a lot more like things seamlessly change over time. But all of a sudden we start to peel back the standard, and all of a sudden we're plateauing for ages. We start to gain the weight back on. We're not making any progress. And all of a sudden we're like, I just feel it, but I'm eating normally again. How many I still really love bringing up the mashed potato story.
My fucking story, dude. Yeah. Yes.
100 grams. If Yann's unfamiliar, Jimbo thought he was eating 100 grams of mashed potato. It was actually half a kilo.
500 fucking grams. I had no idea.
500 grams.
And to this day, I still I want to talk about what you said about the oats.
Yeah.
I don't track my food. I don't track in my Fitness Pal my food unless I'm going to go into a deficit phase. Unless I'm going to try to burn some fat or lose some fat. Every single day, I will still put the oats on the scales because of exactly what you said.
Yeah.
The things that really are calorie dense, I always weigh them up regardless. It takes no extra time. But the difference between 80 grams and 120 grams, not much in the bowl. You will not even notice, but it will blow your calories out. Well, it won't blow your calories out, but it's enough to put you up to that maintenance. It's exactly what you're saying.
100%. And then
Yes, with the mashed potato, yes. That was fucking rough.
And I guess the result of that is that with that level of this can happen over, multiple ingredients, multiple things. I don't really care. I don't really track my oil anymore, whatever it may be.
Yes.
Is that it starts to dissipate the standard, and then we're left with I'm not seeing any progress, even though I'm just doing the same thing. I'm like, chances are you're probably not. So you don't want to that's why I always say with tracking, especially when you're seeing results, just stay with it for a little bit longer. Keep validating it. Keep making sure, even if it's I know that's 120 grams of rice I know, but I'm just going to put it anyway.
Yes.
And it's okay, like, and it's fine. Because again, once you get to your true, like to the results that you're after, you understand your true habits around, the lifestyle that you're, living with the foods that you're eating, then you can also, again, like what Jamie's saying, just use it as like I guess as a validator. Just be like, I'm just going to quickly double check every now and then. I'm on the right track. Sick.
Yeah.
No worries at all.
100%. Yes, I was going to say something, but now I've fully fucking forgotten.
Well, I think it's the, I guess, psychology of the portion size.
Portion size. If you want to get a result, track your fucking food, essentially. Like, that's what I'm going to say. When we're talking about if you want to keep this tracking, if you want to lose fat, just track your food. Just do it. It's going to be so much harder if you do not. The other option is either you got to eyeball your food, which unless you have a great education around it, like Dan and I, we've been doing this for a very long time. I fucking put my oats in the bowl every single night. Well, actually, my fiance does it now, but up until like the past, few months, I've been doing it. But she makes these awesome on my plate. Follow it, like great. I've had the best breakfast for the last fortnight. Anyway, it's like does these baked oats. It's crazy. Tastes so good. But yes, up until then, I would always still weigh my oats because I know that I can't eyeball that. I can eyeball it, but it's probably going to be out. So you have a choice of eyeballing it, crossing your fingers that you're in a calorie deficit, and then being really upset when you've tried really hard because you have tried hard and you've got nowhere, or you're going to be doing an exclusion diet where you're cutting out a full food group that you really enjoy. That's going to lead to trouble down the track with your relationship with food. And the first one is going to lead to a troubled relationship with this whole journey. Trying so hard, not seeing a result. Or demonizing food groups because you needed to cut them out to get a result. So now you've related that result with the cutting out of that food. Whereas you could have just had the whole fucking thing, tracked your food, learn about what's in the foods that you like to eat, had flexibility so you can still eat the Tim Tams, you can still eat the finger buns, and you can also still get an amazing result, It's the only real way. If we brought it back to what the question was, is it toxic? I'm going to say absolutely not unless you abuse it, Yeah.
I agree. I think it's extremely useful. I think it's super beneficial to an eventual point. And I think you need to exceed you can ideally exceed its usefulness for when you want to make that change. What's going to move the needle, but also you want to learn to live without it. And then it can be a slippery slope from there if we don't learn to live without it as well. So I think I'd say bringing it back when you go to objective to subjective side of eating. Again, that's the subjective side is just another can of worms in itself. But because it's individualized. But as you're I would say as you're embarking your journey with tracking and want to lose weight or get whatever it may be, you eventually want to start to learn ultimately the way I see it is that you want to start learning more about yourself through the process of your own habits with the food itself. And that's where it starts to shift you out of the tracking realm, especially if you've done it for a while, stuff like that. But it doesn't mean necessarily I'm going to cut this off and I'm done with it. I don't need it anymore. I'm just you can always bring it back to say, hey, this thing is great. It worked for me. I'll need it when I need it. That's fine. That's it. Even when I use for my clients who want to just perform better, who want to, because food is such a pivotal thing when it comes to just optimizing just us as humans, your energy, your mood, and stuff like that. So even if you're not here to lose weight or you actually want to have increase more of your vitality, you want to have more energy, you want to thrive. It's okay to track, really see what you're doing and see how if you're under eating, stuff like that. It takes the variable out of the equation and say, well, is it that? Because then you can look into other things of how can I improve my stress? How can I get more sunlight? Be more active, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, tracking, it can go either way. I hope this changed, your perspective on, seeing the positives in it.
Yeah.
I've got really nothing else to say.
I agree. I think that if you are somebody that's coming in and saying, I don't want to track because it's toxic or bad for me, don't blame the tracking. ask yourself why you actually think that. Like, why do you have that belief? It's one of two things, really, as far as I can see and what I've dealt with clients. Is either you got a history and you don't want to get burned because you couldn't commit to it properly before, and you're trying to run away from things that you're doing wrong and you don't want to face the actual truth of the situation, or you're just fucking lazy, all of which is fine. Or two, you have an underlying eating disorder, which you need to sort out first and find out the root cause. Either way, you need to find out the root cause of this. If it is something serious like an eating disorder, which is fucking fully legit, you need to go get that sorted with a professional, because I learned this stat, and this is actually fucked up. It's going to kill the mood. I learned this stat the other day, actually only yesterday, conveniently before this. But I believe it was mainly in females, but the number one cause, or well, not cause, but a constant in the suicide rate of females, most of them had an eating disorder of some sort, because it's something that's in your head always. You're constantly thinking about food. You have this fucking fucked up thing in your head. If you are at that level or heading towards that level, or even a fraction of that, you need to get on top of that and get that sorted immediately. If not, track your fucking food. Essentially. Or don't.
Or don't.
Or don't if you don't want to track that food. I literally had a goal session with somebody this morning, and he was like, I just don't want to track my food. I'm like, all right, well, don't expect the result you want. He's like, all right, cool. Let's just train. I'm like, sweet. You know, if you want the result and you don't want to track your food, expect it to take longer and be harder. And that's fine. All right? That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Good stuff. Trying to see if I had anything else to back that up. No, not really else. I think I find it so legit to understand that with the eating disorders, or any sort of disordered eating, mental health, stuff like that, with the around food, we're so pro mental health on that stuff, like on all of it, especially when it comes to food. And this shouldn't feel like if it's like in that situation where like you're hearing this podcast and there may be underlying, and you may be tempted to think of like, oh no, tracking might be different, you know, like with this newfound light. If that's not addressed, we just highly recommend that just don't do it. You know, go sort the help that's going to be way more beneficial, and approach it in a different way with, you know, like a professional and stuff like that. So
yeah, prioritize it. Make sure that that's your base is set. If you want to lose fat, you need the base. The base comes from the mental health. And I think what we could do, and what I'd like to start doing anyway, is just getting rid of that blurred line between people that are actually fucking in trouble and having a hard time, and people that are just taking the piss. You know, and you can find which camp you're in. There's nothing wrong with either. But
we're pointing at the people taking the piss.
We're pointing at the people taking the piss. That is a different fucking thing. The majority of people that we work with are taking the fucking piss. You know, and that's fine, but they just don't know.
Yeah, and
that's okay.
And that's what we do. We look, what we're here for? Education and clarity and no bullshit.
Yes.
We're here to give you the truth. We just want to give you the truth. Mm-hmm. We give you the truth. So we hope you enjoyed this episode. This is tracking toxic? Is it toxic? You can make a decision for yourself. Hopefully this might shed some new light on what you might previously have believed. We'd love to hear your opinions and thoughts. These opinion chats, that's going to be new into season 4, and we want to delve into more of those, you know, harder chats that may be questionable, that may get us cancelled. Who fucking knows? But we're open to want to just do it anyway, and it may give you the value that you probably need, and we'll be stoked for it. So if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify, give us a 5 stars, give us a follow as well. You can comment on both of those to say what you liked about it, what you agreed with, what you disagreed with. We're open to it all. New episodes are coming out every single week. Back in season 4, we're going to be seeing more guests, more questions, same old bullshit that we fucking spit out of our fucking mouths with fingers in a bum, finger buns.
Finger in my bum. And also, we went through this whole episode. Danny still didn't make a fucking move. I think it's because he knows he's going to get smoked here.
No fucking chance. No way, man. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.